Brought to you by Penguin.
Ruth by Kate Riley. Read by Rebecca Lowman.
A small potato in the blight still strives toward the light. Bill Callahan, Day. Gracefield. She was named Ruth before anyone could intervene. 2 days before Easter, 1963, rising from his plate of Hamburg pie, her father asked the Brotherhood convened at Gracefield to welcome Ruth Della Shawl. Without hesitation, they did. Later that night, Esther Shawl told her husband he'd chosen the ugliest biblical name she knew. It reminded her of nothing so much as a tuber. "I would have called you Maybelline Raisinette," she told Ruth, one of her many benign conspiracies. Esther, illiterate until 17, hoarded words and deployed the best only in times of great suffering or boredom. Ruth cherished those two especially, but found neither in the dictionary when she was old enough to use it. Maybelline was likely a word to describe long hair. Here a fantasied stallion tossed its head, and raisinette, an extinct form of credenza. This analysis she reported with solemn confidence to Dorothy Mueller, whose own enviable name meant gift from God. God, Jesus, her mother, all of her dead relatives in heaven. Ruth knew that each could read her mind, and knowing this only provoked her inner imp. It scampered down to hell and returned with sacks of obscenity. Her parents dying, the private parts of cavemen and Egyptians in the children's encyclopedia, the words shit and sex. She hoped that those with access to her thoughts tuned in only occasionally, if alerted, and in that hope she was in ardent imitation of a child whose soul required no monitor. Growing up, Ruth surmised, was the process by which one became opaque to God, and this was why nobody could read her mother's mind, or the elders. Ruth thought of egg whites clouding in a frying pan and wondered whether she would still have evil thoughts when no one else could see them. There was only one document of her mother's early life in the Western colonies. It was displayed below the photograph of Esther's wedding day and above her brother Jeremiah's careful and menacing watercolor of the Virgin Mary clutching the baby Jesus. All 3 pictures hung behind her father's head on the wall that Ruth faced at the breakfast table. By closing one eye, she could see through him to the black and white portrait of 7 grim Detweilers posed beside a ditch, 1948. The men looked like Abraham Lincoln. The women, even her mother, like rats in kerchiefs. Ruth had memorized the chevron and invoked them under her breath every morning before grace. Samuel, Paul, Simon, Elsa, Esther, Sharon, Rachel. Her mother was 13 years old in the photograph and 17 when she fled east. The other 6 remained in black and white in South Dakota. Ruth knew that chanting their names would, by the power of prayer, make them aware of her, and she was inconsolable when her father became annoyed with her muttering and made her switch seats with James. Ruth's grandparents were not in the photograph, and her mother would say only that they were named Olfetter and Ankala and came from the Western colonies. Ruth imagined them sleeping under a rose petal in a walnut shell and leaping over candles. She told Dorothy Mueller, who at age 5 believed everything she was told, that she was related to Rumpelstiltskin. The Shawls lived in Gracefield, on the first knuckle of the index finger in the glove of Michigan, the most southerly of the Brotherhood's 3 North American dwarfs. Ruth recognized Gracefield as a complete ecosystem. It had forests, a lake, a library, a set of triplets, and her family. She, Jeremiah, and James often spent Sunday afternoon unsupervised in the woods behind the laundry. Once, while her brothers were occupied pulverizing an especially brown rock, she went down to...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?